Hello everyone, and welcome to the 10th video of the Angular Portfolio website course. In this video, we will be going over how to supply our project cards with our project data. In the last video, we ended with showing how to pass in data as an input to a component. We could repeat this process for each piece of data needed for our projects. However, a better approach would be to create a model to hold our project data and then pass that model into our component. For what we're doing, a model is a TypeScript class or interface that holds the data necessary to represent a real-world object or concept. Let's get started by creating a folder to hold our models. Within the app folder, create a new folder and call it _models. Inside of this folder, create a file called project.ts. Inside of this newly created file, let's type export interface project. This interface will represent a project and hold all relevant data needed to display a project on our site. The first property we'll give our project interface is an ID of type number. We'll use this later on to uniquely identify our projects. For the rest of the properties, let's go to the finished site and observe all the different data we will need. For any given project, we are going to have a name for our project. We're going to have a short 1 to 2 sentence summary, and we'll have some tags. If we click on View More, we'll see that we also have some pictures that can showcase the project. We also have a full description. And lastly, we have a project link that can lead users to a GitHub repo or something similar. Let's go to our project and create properties for each of these distinct pieces of data. The next property we will add will be a name for our project. Then let's add a property for the summary. Let's add a property for the description. Then another one for the project link. Let's create an array for the pictures. And lastly, let's create an array for the tags. Now that we have set up our project model, let's go back to our project card component. Let's rename our input from project name to just project. And let's set the type to an empty object of type project. Then, in our template, we can replace all of our hard-coded values with the properties of our input project instead. So this will be replaced with project.name. The filler text here can be replaced with project.summary. And now, things get interesting when trying to display our project's tags. So far, displaying the project name and description is easy to do since they're just individual pieces of data. But how do we display an array of data in our template, like our tags, for example? This can be done using the Angular directive ng4. ng4 is a structural directive that allows us to iterate over an array and then do something with that data in our template. It's pretty much equivalent to a for each loop. In this example, item would be the current object that is being iterated upon within the given list. So for us, let's replace item with tag, and let's replace list with project.tags. Let's copy one of our tag divs below. and then replace the text with the tag object from our for loop. Then let's get rid of our hard-coded tags below. Our project card template has now been set up to display data that is supplied by our project input. Now, let's test this out by setting up a project in our portfolio component to then pass into our project cards. In our portfolio component, let's define a variable called project of type project. And let's initialize it with the following data. For now, I have only set values for the properties we're currently working with. Let's go to our portfolio template. And we can replace our inputs with project equals project. Let's see what this looks like. Our project cards are now displaying the project model data that was supplied to them by the portfolio component. At this point, we are going to revisit how we set up our tags. Right now, we're using a string array to hold our tags. We are going to change this to using a model to represent our tags. We are doing this because if we go to our finished site, our tags are what we will use to filter our projects. And we want something more structured than an array of strings to represent our tags. Since we only have a handful of tags that we don't expect to change very often, a good guess would be to use an enum to represent our tags. And normally this would work. However, we are also color coding our tags as seen down here. And we want to have a data structure that will allow us to define both the name of the tag as well as the color to go with it. And enums can only be defined using primitive data types such as string. So instead, we will be creating a model for our tags that will tell us the name and the color for that tag, but will function like an enum. Let's go back to our project. In our models folder, let's create another file called tag.ts. In our tag class, type export class tag. Next, we're going to define a constructor. Let's type private constructor, private read-only key, string, public read-only color, string. Next, let's define our toString method, which will return this.key. Next, let's create our first tag by typing static read-only angular equals new tag angular red. Let's stop for a moment to explain what we just did. This first part, we have defined a tag called angular. These static read-only variables will act as our enums. Right now, we just have one, but I'll add more in a second. The tag model takes in two parameters in its constructor. The first parameter is a private read-only string called key. This variable is going to represent the name of the tag itself. For example, above we have defined our first tag. The first parameter is being passed in here, and this is how it's going to be spelled on our website. The second parameter, color, is what we will use to set the color of our tag. If you still aren't completely sure how this all works, that's okay, as it isn't super important that you understand how this class is set up. As we start using tags, it will make more sense how this model is designed. I'm going to define several more tags now. Feel free to pause the video for a moment and copy these, or feel free to instead define tags that apply to your own skill set and choose your own colors for them. Once that's done, open up the project model. And let's change the tags array from type string to our new tag model. Make sure that it imports your tag model at the top. Now in our portfolio component, we're seeing an error because we still have tags set to a string array, but our project model is now expecting an array of tags. Let's delete these and replace them with some tags instead. You will need to make sure a tag is imported. It may or may not do that automatically. Let's go check our site again. As we can see, everything still functions the same, except we're using a tag model now. Our tags are still not using their new colors, so let's take care of that now. Open up the HTML template for the project card component. To set the color, go into the innermost div here, and after the classes, let's type style.backgroundColor equals tag.color. What we did here is known as data binding in Angular. Data binding is the concept of dynamically setting a property in our template equal to the value of some data. In our component style sheet, we had set the background color of our tag to blue by default. But now, the background color property will be set to the color we define for our tags. But what makes this powerful is that it changes dynamically with the data it's bound to. So if tag.color were to change for any reason, the tag's background color would change with it in real time. Let's see how this looks. Our tags now have the background color that we set for them in the tags class. And that will be all for this video. I know we jumped around between a few different topics, but hopefully everything made sense. And if not, feel free to post a question below, and I will try to answer them as soon as possible. Feel free to continue along to the next video, where we will go over setting up a service that can send our project data to different parts of our site. Thanks for watching.